principles of the compound effect are the underlying foundation to which all success is built on top of. So it's kind of like this. You could have the world's greatest software, where tens of millions of dollars have been invested by the greatest engineers, and you've created this world-class software. But if you install this world-class software on a faulty operating system, what happens? It's buggy, it crashes, it doesn't perform to its potential, and a lot of people mistakenly go, this crappy software doesn't work. Just like you read a book or you go to a seminar, and you get the information and you install it, but if it's installed on a crappy operating system, it will be buggy, it will crash, and it will not work. But if we can finally get the operating system dialed in, rewire the code so that the operating system is operating at its full potential, now we can install the leadership or the selling or the enterprise building or the negotiation or the parenting software on top of it, and maybe this time, for the first time, it actually will perform to its capacity. So that's what we're about as we go through this process. So my goal is this, to provide you a system that will enable you to achieve goals you were too afraid to even imagine possible. Brendan told me about the homework assignment he gave you last night. And a lot of you did some dreaming. But I want you to step those up. And I think you will step them up if you can see tangibly how you could achieve them. The reason why people don't have big goals is because they just think it's fantastical. It's too far out of their reach. They don't see a pathway to achieving it, and so they just think it's unrealistic. What I want you to do is rewire that and go, okay, wow, for the first time, I get how I actually could achieve this thing that I thought was impossible before. So a year or 3 years from now, when we look back at you, you are totally unrecognizable to the person you are right now. You are unrecognizable to your spouse, to your partner, to your neighbors, and most importantly, you are unrecognizable to your banker. That's my goal, to provide you the system that will enable you to do just that. We're going to be doing a working session here. I don't need to tell a lot of you, you're part of this group, you're used to digging in and doing the work. So obviously suggest you take notes. There'll be some things we won't be able to cover together, so I'll suggest some homework assignments. I'll show you where you can download some free resources. I'm going to go through like 200 slides. So instead of trying to get everything that's going to be on each one of these slides, I'll show you where you can get the whole slide deck sent to you, so you can just pay attention to the key items on the slide. You like that? Yeah, okay, thank you. And then, by the way, I've just tried this new app where I'm recording myself simultaneously. So if it works, I'll also give you the whole recording of what we're doing right now. So we'll see. No promises. You know how these apps work. So, and then also where you might be able to find some more information inside the book as well. All right. So here's what it's all about. Between where you're at right now and your goal stands this operating system. And it doesn't matter what your goal is. It could be to build a fantastic business. It could be to buy a new car, send your children to university, retire your parents. It doesn't matter. But between you and the goal is this operating system. So what I want to do is to give you the lines of code that you need to rewire your own operating system with that will enable you to get to the other side. So we all come into this world exactly the same. Naked, scared, and ignorant. Now, some of us come in a little uglier than the rest. You saw my baby photo. But after this grand entrance, there's only one thing. If you asked me to boil down the principles of success into one thing, what is the one control factor for every outcome of your life? What's the one thing that determines whether you end up living here or whether you end up living here? If we all come in naked, scared, and ignorant, and then after that grand entrance, one thing would determine whether you end up driving this or whether you end up driving this. What's that one thing? The one thing that determines whether at the end of 50, 60 years you end up broke, despondent, alone, bitter, and divorced, or whether you end up with a marriage of magic and great intimacy and connection. There's only one thing that determines whether you get to send your children to the greatest universities in the world, or no matter what they qualified for and earn their way into, they can't go because you can't afford it. Only one thing determines whether your parents at the end of their life run out of money, now they're desperate, or whether you can hand them the keys, pay off their mortgage, and retire them comfortably. Only one thing determines whether you get to contribute to the charity of your choice to your greatest heart's extent, travel the world in great luxury. As Curly said, it's just the one thing. So what is it? If we're to boil down all the principles of success, all the outcomes in your life right now, what's the one thing? Choices. Right now, you sit there in that chair as the accumulated effect of all the choices you've made up till now. After your grand entrance of naked, scared, and ignorant, you have made a series of choices, and all those choices have added up right now to your waistline, right now to your wallet, right now to the intimacy or lack thereof of the relationships in your life. You are nothing but the accumulated, compounded effect of all the choices you've made since you were born to where you're at right now. So the first line of code, if we're going to change the trajectory of your life, we're going to send you in a stratosphere you didn't even imagine possible before. We have to go right down to below the atom level, to the nucleus, and that are your choices. So then you might ask, what choices? Because we're constantly faced with choices. Is it the big life choices? Where do I go to college? Who do I marry? What job do I take? What career track? That's what a lot of people think, that their life is an outcome of all of these sort of like big, defining moment choices. Well, how many people here have ever been bitten by an elephant? Anybody? How many people have been bitten by a mosquito? See, nature provides clues, right? It's the little things in life that will bite you. See why I'm not a comic? Stick to the success principles here. So I'm asked often, there are 7 billion people on the planet. We only get to choose 12 people to appear on the cover of Success magazine. 12 out of 7 billion. So then the question becomes, what did these people do to create those extraordinary results? What did they do? Because if you could figure out what they did, you could do the same, and you too could find yourself 12 of 7 billion people on the planet. So let me tell you, there are myths about what people believe that these people did to get on the cover of Success magazine. Let me clear the myths out first. Success is not a result of heroic feats. These people did not do anything heroic by comparison to anybody else. They are also not a result of grand acts of bravery. Do not leap and learn to fly on the way down. That doesn't work out very well. I'm not a believer of leap and the net will appear. No. It does not require grand acts of bravery to end up to become extraordinary successful. Not quantum leaps. It's not something, where overnight success. You find anybody on the cover of Success magazine, anybody with any extraordinary success, even though it appears like it was almost overnight, I'll show you why it appears that way here in just a second. It has nothing to do with any sort of great quantum leap. Success, however, is a result of small, seemingly insignificant, moment-to-moment choices. And I want to prove that to you in a variety of ways here. So let me present you with small choices like, at lunch, do you order the hamburger and fries, or do you order the salad? Doesn't look like a life-altering choice. Small choices like, at the end of a hard day's work, do you stop by the gym and put in a few crunches, or do you rush home to catch Dancing with the Stars or American Idol or watch other people living out their dreams? In the heat of a battle, do you decide to hold your ground, not give in, not say you're sorry, or do you choose to say you're sorry and make a moment of magic? Small little choices like, in a networking event, there's somebody you want to meet, but you're a little intimidated to do so. Do you walk across and introduce yourself anyway, or do you hunker down and not do so? Small little choices like, at the end of a day, do you put in a few more phone calls, or do you just call it a day? All these small little choices that accumulate out throughout the day. These small choices add up to big results. Those people you see on the cover of Success magazine, We're just more disciplined and consistent with all those little tiny choices all along the way, and then it added up to gargantuan results. Let me prove it to you. If I gave you the option of a penny, a single penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or $1 million in cash right now, how many people would pick the $1 million in cash? Okay, tough crowd. All right. Let me sweeten the deal. Penny, doubles for 31, or $2 million in cash. How many people take $2 million now? All right. There's going to come a time when this math's going to work against you here, so figure when that is. All right, $3 million in cash, or the penny. How many people pick the $3 million in cash? Okay, a few more converts. Let's say, since we're talking about small choices, which was a clue, you picked the penny. And your buddy picked the $3 million in cash. Let's see how this works out mathematically. So you have the penny. At the end of 5 days, your penny's worth 16 cents, and your buddy's got $3 million partying like a rock star. You're not feeling very good about your choice thus far. Now we go to day 10, and your penny has added up to something less than a Happy Meal at McDonald's, and they're champagne and caviar jetting around the world with their $3 million in cash. Day 20, your pennies turned into $5,242. They got $3 million in cash, laughing all the way to the bank. However, on day 31, your single penny, doubling every day, is turned into $10,737,000. Now, a couple of keys here. The math between day 1 and day 2 is exactly the same math between day 30 and day 31. It is the same increment of choice improvement. This is the reason why Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Because all of a sudden, it looks like these gargantuan results come from seemingly out of nowhere. But it is just the accumulated compound effect of math, or in success principles language, consistency of discipline, compounding and making its results visible. Let me make this more practical for you. Let's take 3 friends, and they're all starting out about the same. They all graduated from the same 4-year university. They all moved out to the suburbs. They've been married for 5 years. They put on 5 years of that husband marriage flab that, a lot of guys do. They both have 2.2 children, white picket fence, the whole thing. They got a job making $50,000 a year, all starting out the same. Now let's say that Scott here picks up a copy of Success Magazine. He's like, hey, some of these things are pretty cool. I think I might just try out some of these things. So here's what Scott does to start making some small little choice changes. He reads 10 pages of a good book a day. So instead of getting up in the morning and reading the newspaper and finding out about all the crime and criminals and disasters and scandal and gossip, he decides to pick up a good book and something inspirational, something instructional, and he just reads 10 pages in the morning. On the way to the office, instead of putting on the drive time yak radio, reaffirming all the disasters, murders, and scandals, he puts on an instructional CD, something inspirational, something instructional, something to just sort of nourish and feed his mind. And he decides to cut out 125 calories a day. That's half a candy bar, small bowl of cereal. Okay, no big crash diet going on here. He drinks 2 bottles of water a day. He takes 2,000 steps a day, which means he just parks at the back of the parking lot. No big deal. He makes a few more phone calls before calling it a day, and he makes his weekly date night a priority. Okay, that's all. Now, how many people here, truly, if this is all you had to do to become significantly successful, how many people think they could do Scott's plan? Okay, right? You could do Scott's plan, Scott? Good. I see Scott there in the audience. Good. It's a clue. Yeah. All right, now Larry's just going to keep doing what Larry's always done and expecting different results, right? Status quo. Now Brad's just going to start slipping, like we all have done, like we see happening all around us. Start making some poor, slightly not great choices. Here's what Brad's going to do. He's going to munch on a little junk food around the office. You know those chocolate-covered pretzels at the end of the secretary's desk, right? Half a handful of the chocolate-covered peanuts. No big deal. He's going to miss a couple of workouts a week. He's going to drink more Diet Coke than water, God forbid. He's going to move around a little less. He's going to skip a prospecting call or two, and he's going to give the cold shoulder to the spouse a couple of times throughout the week. Again, we're not going to call Jerry Springer to film the inside of his household. No big deal stuff. But let's just see how this works out. 5 months down the road, Scott's reading every morning, listening to instructional CD. The results are exactly the same. No difference whatsoever. 10 months down the road, exactly the same. Now, Scott's getting a little perturbed. He's like, he sees his buddies sloughing off, having a great time, munching on food, not going to the gym, what have you, not having to do this damn weekly date night, and the results are exactly the same. So Scott's feeling a little frustrated, but he decides to kind of keep it going. 20 months down the road, slight, ever so slight, Brad's just sort of feeling it in the belt a little bit, right? A little apathy sort of set in at home. There's a little tension at the office. But again, no big deal changes between the three of them. At 27 months alone, though, however, the differences are dramatic. Let me show it to you statistically. So Scott, 27 months later, has read 47 books on success and achievement, just reading 10 pages 5 days a week. He's listened to 465 hours of instructional and inspirational audio over 27 months. Is that going to have some sort of impact in his life? This 125 calories that he saved out of his diet, he's lost 33.5 pounds. When I interviewed Dr. Oz, he said, we can end obesity in America today if everybody just cut 125 calories out of their diet. That's it. Doesn't require a crash diet. Doesn't require nutritional science and all the rest of this. 125 calories. He's drank 3,700 gallons of water. He's walked 900 miles. 124 date nights with the wife. Now, I had photos for that, but I just decided to go with X's and O's. This couple extra calls, he made 1,860 extra calls he wouldn't have made at a 3% close ratio, which means he's learned nothing from the 465 audios and the 47 books. He's added $279,000 on top of his $50,000 a year income. Slight little positive choices along the way. Now, Larry's been treading water, falling a little further behind, becoming disenchanted, bored, apathetic, passionless, disengaged. This is where most of our society is living right now. They're not falling off a cliff. They're not setting the world on fire. They're just doing what they've always done and falling a little bit further behind and getting more pissed off about it. That's all. And then we've got Brad. These slight little poor choices along the way. His 125 calories extra a day means he's added 33.5 pounds. Those couple of workouts that he missed, the Diet Coke instead of the water, more weight gain. Now he's in danger of cardiac arrest. Missed a few meetings, missed a few phone calls. Now he's in business and financial emergency. This inattention and cold shoulder to the spouse. Either apathy has set up or he's on the brink of divorce. Small, poor choices compounded over time is how people get to these crisis outcomes. While you are making positive choices or poor choices, the results are invisible. So it's easy to get faked out. You think that the choices you're making right now don't matter. Now, I could completely change this for you if I could take the space-time continuum and collapse it. You make a choice right here today, and then we go out 20 years, and I could show you the outcome of that choice and collapse it and show it to you right now. You would instantly start making different choices. The problem is this space-time continuum between choice and outcome. So if you, upon taking a bite of your first hamburger and fries, your gut exploded, you had to grab your chest and fall down in a heart attack, or let's say upon your first meal with a hamburger and fries, the next morning you woke up like this, would you eat another hamburger? Probably not. Now, how do you get like that? One hamburger at a time. That's all. Well, let's just say the first time you take a puff of a cigarette, you have a cigarette, you put it out, you're like, I feel pretty good, because you probably breathed deeply for the first time in a long time. Feels pretty good, right? But let's say the next morning you woke up like this. Would you have another cigarette? Or let's just say, you're a young guy, and it looks pretty cool. Your friends think you're cool smoking a cigarette. Like, this kid looks like James Dean here, right? I mean, nothing but positive affirmation at this point. But let's say we could take the space-time continuum and collapse it and take his future self and communicate to his boy self. This is what will happen, one single cigarette at a time. Or let's just say one day you decide, I don't want to make these extra phone calls today. I got to pick up the laundry, the kids. I have a headache. I just don't want to do it today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. But the first day you don't make your extra calls and your house is up on foreclosure, would you make the calls tomorrow? Or let's just say, in the heat of the battle, like tonight, I just don't feel like going there. I'm just not giving in. I'm just not doing it tonight. And you decide to hold your ground in the midst of an argument. But the next morning, you wake up to divorce papers, and you've got to look your little girl in the eye and explain why you couldn't make the right choice. If we can close this space-time continuum and show you the exact outcome of this choice right now, today, you would, in fact, make different choices. See, what happens here is every single choice has a butterfly effect in your life. You've heard of the butterfly effect, right? Butterfly flaps its wings somewhere else on the planet, there's a tsunami. Same thing with your choices. These small little choices you're making, somewhere else in your life down the road is a tsunami of outcome, both positive as well as negative. Now, I'm not saying you got to be dogmatic about everything you do. Yeah, your grandmother was right, everything in moderation. But you need to know that on that cheat day, those choices are still having a butterfly effect in your life. There is no cheat day for the compound effect. There is no respite. Everything has a consequence, both positive and negative, in outcome over time. So the answer to this is you have to have patience. As you start making some of these positive choices and you don't see any differences in results, it can become frustrating. The answer is you just have to become patient and allow the compound effect to add up, stack up until down the line it seems to have explosive results. Here, imagine you were taking a trip from Los Angeles airport to LaGuardia in New York. And while the plane is on the tarmac, it's pointed directly at LaGuardia. Directly. If the nose of that plane is off only 1 degree, so from here to here, from here to here, can you see the difference? From here to here, just 1 degree. By the time it gets to its destination, it'll be 150 miles off course. This is how it happens, people. 10 years down the road, and you get here and you go, how did I get so fat? How did I get divorced? How did I end up in bankruptcy? How did my house end up in foreclosure? You could have just been 1 degree off. That's all. And you're 150 miles off course from your goal, from your dreams, from your aspirations. So just like a plane has at the nose of a plane, it has a gyroscope. So no matter what happens along the journey, it readjusts its path. So if there's weather, if there's traffic, if there has to be a course correction, the computer system relocks onto the target. No matter what happens, it relocks onto the target. Well, in the air, there's not a whole lot of obstacles, but on the ground, life is more like this. A double black diamond ski run. You're like, there's the lodge with the hot cocoa and fire. And between me, I could just go straight at it, but it's going to be nothing but elbows and elbows. That's not going to work out, right? So you're going to start straight, and then you're going to get hit with a mogul, and you're going to be pushed to the left. You might not even notice it. And if you don't readjust, you'll ski right off the mountain. So you got to adjust and come back on. And you're going to get hit with another mogul, and it's going to push you off course. But you have to readjust and reconnect with your target. And it's going to be rocky and bumpy. And as you start to make positive choices, you're going to fall off the wagon. The key is getting back on and readjusting and readjusting. So you too need a gyroscope in your life like there is at the nose of a plane. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. So it's easy to eat an apple a day to keep the doctor away. We've heard that all our lives. It's easy to walk around the block for your good health. It's easy to pick a moment once or twice throughout the day to show some affection or some appreciation. It's easy to pick up the phone and call people. It's easy to write thank you letters. It's easy to drink 8 glasses of water a day. All those things are ridiculously easy, but what's the problem? They're also easy not to do. So I have an important question for this intelligent audience. What do successful people and unsuccessful people have in common? Anybody know? Here's what it is. They both hate to do what it takes to be successful. Successful people just do it anyway. Do I like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's still dark outside and cold and leaving the warm embrace of my beautiful bride to strap on running shoes to go pound pavement out in the middle of the morning? I do not. After a long, hard day's work, where I just really want to go and sit on the couch and turn off my brain, do I want to go into a sweaty gym with a bunch of hairy dudes pushing around a bunch of lead iron? I do not. In the heat of a battle with my wife, when I know that I'm right, do I want to say, "You're right, honey, I'm sorry"? I do not. No. But why do I do those things? Because that's what it takes to be successful. So I think for people who are not really successful, I think it's actually liberating to know that successful people hate to do this stuff too. But they just do it anyway. And that's what makes them successful.